G'day superstars, and welcome to another Federation transmission. It is April 29, 2008. We have here in front of us a drafted resolution by our investigative team, drafted for the United Nations and the General Assembly to hopefully bring a bit more transparency and disclosure to the extraterrestrial issue and into the UFO activities that are occurring up, in and around the planet Earth. Today's subject is again another UFO investigation, but pertaining more directly to the United Nations and their history of activity within the UFO realm. We don't pretend for a moment that even if we sent a petition or a resolution to the United Nations that it would make an iota of difference, but we need to obviously make sure that we are doing the right steps and heading down the right channels, not to get people pissed off. But I'm afraid we're getting very close to the point where disclosure can only occur from within, and as we keep stating to all our viewers that this is a subject where you have to recognise this yourself. Please do not wait for United States officials or governments or the United Nations to come forward and disclose this particular topic for you. It is a bit of a no-brainer. So let's dive into it, shall we? The UN and their history of UFO. It was back in the 1960s when a representative from the Office of Public Information from the United Nations, and his name was Coleman von Kowetski, and he decided that it would be a great idea to bring all UFO sightings under the jurisdiction of the UN, and that the UN be the only authorised group to openly contact craft and their occupants. Fantastic idea. I don't know why they didn't run with it. Could be the energy sector. There's big cash in the energy sector. I don't know if we're quite ready for anti-gravity material just yet. $4 trillion industry might unsettle some big cats and some big industries. 7 years later, a gentleman by the name of Dr. James MacDonald sent a letter to the UN, and he was obviously quite concerned after he made many years of research into the area. The statement on the international scientific aspects of the problem of the unidentified flying objects, presented on June 7th, 1967 to the group of the Outer Space Affairs of the United Nations Organization by James E. MacDonald, a professor at the University of Arizona. He was fairly specific. He just basically stated, I want its scientific staff, being the United Nations, and via scientific establishments available in all the nations which are members, so that a systematic study of the UFO problem at the scale of the world is undertaken without delay. He further states, because of the worldwide nature of the phenomenon, it falls immediately into sectors where the United Nations must take its responsibilities to encourage an immediate raising of the level of the scientific examination of the problem. Fantastic. Where do they go from here? 1967, they've been given the first little warning, a shot across the bow. It wasn't until 3 years later where a gentleman by the name of Sir Eric Gairy, who was then Prime Minister of Grenada, a small island in the Caribbean, and obviously if those who understand the United Nations, you need to have a member state bring up an issue before obviously anyone else can act on it, of which Sir Eric Gairy did. Gairy had accused some nations which he did not identify publicly, USA, of stifling UFO information. By the way, again, the United States opposed Gairy's idea to have the UN conduct UFO research. Why would that be? Why would anyone have a problem with the United Nations, the representative people on a global front, representing what could be perceived as a threat? I don't believe it is a threat, but even if you did go down the lines of security, there's obviously negligence which can be seen here. In 1978, now some time has obviously passed since the 70s, where Sir Eric Gairy first proposed that the United Nations have a quick look. It became a very big year for UFO information for the United Nations, and it starts when in 1978 in July, where astronaut Gordon Cooper spoke before the UN. Now Mr. Cooper had a fairly extensive history with NASA, with 22 orbit flights in space, and he further states, I believe that these extraterrestrial vehicles and their crews are visiting the planet from other planets, which are a little more technically advanced than we are on Earth. I feel that we need to have a top-level, coordinated program to scientifically collect and analyse data from all over the Earth concerning any type of encounter, and to determine how best to interfere with these visitors in a friendly fashion. He then goes on, I have not yet had the privilege of flying a UFO, nor of meeting the crew of one. However, I do feel that I am somewhat qualified to discuss them, since I have been into the fringes of the vast areas of which they travel. Also, I did have an occasion in 1951 to have 2 days of observation of many flights of them, of different size, flying in height of formation, generally from west to east over Europe. They were at a higher altitude than we could reach with our jet fighters. He continues to say if the UN agrees to pursue this project and then lend the credibility to it, perhaps many more well-qualified people will agree to step forth and provide help and information. From this point we jump to November, where another champion by the name of Dr. J. Allen Hynek, speaking at the United Nations on November 27, 1978. And he further states there exists a global phenomenon, the scope and extent of which is not generally recognised. It is a phenomenon so strange and foreign to our daily terrestrial mode of thought that it is frequently met by ridicule and derision by persons and organisations unacquainted with the real facts. He further states, in the United States alone, the Gallup poll has not only shown a remarkable high awareness on the part of the public of the UFO subject, but indicates that 57% of the US population, thus well over 100 million persons, believe that UFOs are real and not a figment of the imagination. He further continues with his statement to the United Nations. He says, Mr. Chairman, we are dealing here with an unexplained phenomenon which has been reported so far from 133 nations and which has aroused the concern and often the fear of significant fractions of their population. Virtually all 133 countries are member states of the United Nations. It is a phenomenon which therefore has great possible sociological and political implications. So where did all that lead us to? Well, later in that year, 1978, 18th of December to be exact, the UN General Assembly, on the recommendation of the Special Political Committee, recommended the establishment of an agency or a department of the United Nations for undertaking, coordinating and disseminating the results of research into unidentified flying objects and related phenomena. And one of the points they have outlined here is the General Assembly has taken note of the statements made and draft resolutions submitted by Grenada, the 32nd and 33rd sessions of the General Assembly regarding unidentified flying objects. Grenada, remember, being the Prime Minister, Sir Eric Gairy, who had more balls than most of the presidents and prime ministers around the world to finally come forward to try and bring some light and shed a little disclosure to this phenomenal subject, which will bring a great deal of enlightenment to the people of Earth and should assist the people and particularly future generations with energy innovations. All we can suggest is to people out there, and I'm sure people who are listening to this transmission are already well aware, you have to start making your own decisions and your own investigation. Don't take our word for it. Start looking it up on the net, start looking into UFO evidence with the United Nations, look at the Disclosure Project, which is an awesome project where statements have been taken by over 480 government personnel now. The interviews with the United States astronauts, they're with generals, admirals and other top US government and military officials who are all willing to testify at a congressional hearing that advanced spacecraft of extraterrestrial origin have been downed, retrieved and studied since at least the 1940s. Government officials further testify to a significant technological breakthrough in energy generation and propulsion which have resulted from the study of these objects, and if a declassified environment persists, and then we can put these technological assets into peaceful uses, and obviously would empower new human civilizations, enhancing community reconstruction and of course assisting the biosphere and all the restoration that we require in that field. Okay, there you go team. Well, this is an ongoing issue for us. Climate change news on millicom.com. We hope this transmission finds you exceedingly well. I'll be back tomorrow with a bit more earth travel and some vegetarian cooking to keep that energy going, to keep the fight real. You beauty.